Hello, this is Greg Elson, Green Greg's, coming to you on 21 April 22. Time on deck is 20:04 hours Central Daylight Time. Special guest tonight, Stacy Zivicki. Stacy, as you may know, I've had on my channel many times. Her channel is Battle Axe. Also, she has another channel, Sustainable Stewards, and she's a farmer in her own right, and she's a prepper and a God-fearing woman who brings a lot of interesting information to us. So she's been a cherished guest on many occasions. She's also a participant. She is the treasurer of the Freedom Restoration Foundation, by the way. So she is definitely a patriot and a believer in freedom, and she works hard for these good causes. So Stacy is here tonight. She had some questions she wanted to talk about regards to catastrophes historically and putting them in perspective to the things that are happening now. And by the way, it is planting season. Right now it's planting season. So check out my links to True Leaf Market and get seeds while you can. There's probably going to be a big demand for seeds this year because more people are waking up to the fact that we need to be growing our own food with food prices going out the roof. So that's the thing to do, guys. Have your own food security, put it in your own hands, buy your own seeds, and then you are the master of your own destiny. So ladies and gentlemen, I'll turn this over to, subscribe to my channel and subscribe to Stacy's channels also. When you subscribe, bang the bell, click on and bang the bell. Stacy, tell us tonight about what's on your mind.
Well, Greg, I've been studying a lot in history because, we can learn from our ancestors, right? Our ancestors were survivors. And if we want to learn how to continue to prosper and get through, trial and tribulation, as they say, we look to the past to look to the future. And something that has really spiked my interest the last month has been the mighty fires of 1871. And what a lot of people don't know is that there was multiple fires across 3 states. All right. It wasn't just 1871, the Great Fire of Chicago. It was Illinois, Wisconsin, all around Door County. That's that fingertip of Wisconsin. Pasteurical going all the way up thousands. As a matter of fact, Pasteurical in Door County, there's the biggest fire to date in the United States. And then across the Great Lake, Michigan, into lower Michigan, there was multiple fires. And I have maps of those. The topic is very interesting to me because from the onset, I remember even in high school learning about the Great Fire. We were told, right, this kind of chintzy story about this woman milking her milk cow in the barn, and she tips over her lantern in the barn, starts the straw on the hay on fire. And, it started the Great Fire of Chicago. And we know to date now that most assuredly is not true, seeing how there was as many as 6 fires across 3 states that all started in the evening between, right before 9 o'clock. And there's no coincidence there that there had to have been some sort of cataclysmic event, and I say cataclysmic event, an act of God, so to speak, to cause all these fires at the same time. I mean, even in modern days, Greg, I think you would agree that we don't get fires even out west that start immediately across a span of 100 miles at the same moment, within a minute apart. That's kind of unheard of. I mean, they can spread and, we can have multiple fires, but they usually don't start at the same time. So my thought process, Greg, and I would like to hear yours, is I was thinking, small asteroids, falling stars, what have you. And along with the problem being that the whole prior year to 2 years to that was some of the greatest droughts we've ever seen in this country. And may I add, droughts before, modern man and the industrialized revolution, right? That we're told causes all these events today. So what are your thoughts, Greg? I have some stuff I want to share with you, but just on the surface, I know you mentioned, are you okay?
Well, I just spilled coffee all over myself. I guess I hope I didn't break my cup. I did. I just broke my family cup. Dadgummit.
Oh, darn it.
Well, there's O'Leary's lantern in my lap. Wow. All right. Yeah, I knocked it over. I just put a full cup of coffee. It was full too and hot. Lovely.
Woo.
And
You
now
can't
I
sue nobody over that one, Greg. You did that yourself.
oh, that's true. That's definitely in this case man-made. There wasn't no cow. So lovely. This is my favorite cup. So now I've got to glue it back together. I got to find the pieces to it. And I got a wet mess here. But anyway, that's how life is. The show must go on. So yeah, I agree with you that these things tend to be, well, the interesting thing is this. You said multiple fires started within minutes apart, at some distance apart. Well, you know, O'Leary's cow might have been accomplished, but I seldom, well, I'd find it hard to believe that she was that fast. That she
Right.
all those that she now, you know, they say the cow jumped over the moon, and you got to go 25,000 miles an hour to jump over the moon. But still, a minute apart for a long distance. Of course, I am being facetious, you know that.
Right.
But just for anybody listening, I'm just having a little fun with the topic here. But no, I have a hard time believing that the cow caused multiple fires at great distance apart that started a minute apart. That is some kind of common cause to that occurrence, and it's got to be something outside. There was some suggestions that this was from the remnants of a previous comet that broke up. Some people did some analysis, says no, it couldn't be from that particular comet, but that don't mean it wasn't a piece of an asteroid or meteorite or something that came down and broke up in the atmosphere, and pieces of it hit the ground and maybe started fires in different areas. I think that is a likely explanation. And you know, a lot of times a disaster occurs when the holes in the Swiss cheese line up. I mean, if you think of some kind of plane or some barrier to something bad happening, but you got a hole in it, right? Well, there's usually other barriers. But when just like Swiss cheese, when the holes line up, things happen. So
right.
you may have had a condition where it was already dry, where it was windy, and then there was an incendiary event. I mean,
right.
Sometimes these kind of things happen. I mean, you take like an aviation disaster, for example. It's seldom just one thing alone that causes some of these disasters. It's usually 2 or 3 things break in sequence. And because
That's
you
right.
have multiple failures, the protections from one device to the other don't protect you, and you get in trouble. So it could be something like that. Of course, you know, it's always possible. One thing could do it. I mean, if you got a really good sized meteoroid, you could have some problems. And there could have been other causes, but lightning don't hit in multiple places at once, usually to spread far apart. I lean toward a meteor. That meteor is the flash in the sky. Meteorites. I would lean towards some kind of meteorite or small asteroid that had an air burst and pieces of it rained down in different areas and may have caused those fires. Now, I can't say that conclusively, and don't say Greg Allison said it was this or that. I'm just, that would be my suspicion.
And I'd like to show you, do some screen shares now. But before I do that, Greg, would there be any possibility that this could have been a CME in any way?
Well, I would tend to think that a CME would have caused other effects, that you would have had effects with telegraph stations and rail lines. I don't hear of that. And furthermore, a CME, if it caused a fire, would typically be at a place that had wires going in it. Now that may be coincidence. If you can find that the places that burnt had wires going in it, that's a possibility. We did have fires that started as a result of the Carrington event, maybe a few even from the railroad event in 1921. The Carrington event was in 1859, and it was 69 years later that we had the railroad event. And now it's been 101 years since we've had the railroad event. So we're kind of something could happen anytime. We know the sun right now has got some sunspots that could easily cause us a lot of consternation down here on Earth. We could be in grave trouble. We need to get our grid hardened. I keep harping on that, but I'm still leaning toward a meteorite.
Okay. And I'm gonna screen share some stuff with you right now. All right. All right, folks, hang in there with me. Oops. Hang in there with me, guys. I'm doing this on a cell phone, so it's not as easy. We'll start out with the map here. Do you see it okay, Greg?
Yeah, I see it in Michigan. Oh, wow, that is a good distance.
It is,
Chicago
isn't it?
to way up Lake Michigan, over in Lake Huron, above Detroit. Wow.
And you can see up, up by Pasteurical, Door County, which is the finger, the arm of Wisconsin, around the bay there. That was the biggest, the most massive fire to date. But if you look at even how these fires, you can see, I'm not a meteorologist, but I got some common sense. And to me, it looks like there was a predominant wind, of course, going, eastward.
Eastward. Well, that don't account for fires being north, does it? Those fires, some of them
Right.
were way north of that. And I tend to think O'Leary's cow would have not quite been that healthy. And by the way, who in the world is milking a cow at 9 p.m. at night anyway? Everybody I knew that milked cows did it early, at least earlier.
Right.
You milked a cow or two in your life, I believe.
Oh yes, I have, and it's oh, there we go. Unless you don't get done with work really late or something, you usually do it sooner. I'm going to go ahead and screen share some.
By the way, for those that don't know, Stacy milks cows for a living.
Yes, I do.
I just want
I'm
to
a
point that out.
professional.
She knows something about milking a cow.
Yeah, I always say I'm a professional tit puller. That's my job. All right. Right here, I want to go to can you see my screen okay, Greg?
I can. Chapter 1, before the fire.
Yes. Now this is the Pasteurical Fire Museum, which is in Pasteurical, Wisconsin, which I will be taking my daughter to and having some up close footage on my channel with this. But you can see here, so the community of Pasteurical was estimated to have about 2,000 permanent residents in 1870. And then we can scan down here. By the time of 1871, Pasteurical had become the most fully developed settlement in the region. It boasted the largest wood war factory in the world, cranking out household items made of wood. And then we go down and you can see some pictures here of the logging community. Wisconsin, people don't know that before we were the great dairy state, right? We were the lumberjack state. We produced a lot of lumber, and you can see the logs floating down the lake and the rivers and all these old pictures. But if I scan down here, or actually go back to the main menu here, it says the deadliest fires in U.S. history ranged through Pasteurical, Wisconsin. On October 8th, 1871, a firestorm roared through Pasteurical surrounding areas. It not only killed over 2,000 people, it also destroyed the entire community and its livelihood. The Pasteurical Fire Museum preserves this heritage to today. And then if you go over here, for those of you that want to read stories, they got eyewitness accounts that you can go into. But I wanted to really quick, and I don't know why I've got all this up. Normally I don't. I'm sorry about this odd screen share. This, Greg, I found this in my research. This was Harper's Weekly Journal of, I gotta see here, of civilization. And this, I found this eyewitness account. Can you see this, Greg?
Yes, I can.
All right, so this is, it says from Mr. John R. Chapin. Now, forgive me because this is old English here, all right? We don't talk like this anymore. But he says, I confess that I felt myself a second Nero. I don't know what that means, but as
Nero fiddle while Rome burned. That's what that means.
Yes. I sat down to make a sketch to send wherewith of the burning of Chicago in the presence of such a fearful calamity. You know, I love the language that they used back then, because it really gives you a sense of what they were witnessing. Surrounded by such scenes of misery and woe, having within a brief hour, did you hear that? He said a brief hour, barely escaped with my life from the burning hotel, knowing that under my eye, human life was being destroyed, wealth swept away, and misery entailed upon untold thousands of the fellow man. Nothing but the importance of preserving a record of the scene induced me to force my nervous system into a state of sufficient calm to jot down the scenes passing before me. It goes on to say, no man can describe a battle so well as he who was far away from it. I shall not therefore pretend to give a description of anything more than that which I witnessed, and I trust that I shall be forgiven the use of personal pronouns in the view of necessity of narrating my own experience in order to convey the impressions to others. Now, you know, the folks can go on and they can read that. I'll share that. I'll give those links to you, grades, so they can share that. But he would go on to describe what would be like a tempest. That's all I can explain. His words describe a tempest, and many of the eyewitness accounts in Pasteurical and other areas attest to this wind, and they say the winds could have been as much as 100 to 150 miles an hour.
Okay, stop right there. There. There are winds, and of course, wind will spread fire, but there's also winds that are fire induced. I mean, if you're in a city where you got a huge fire, the winds are like Dresden when it got firebombed. It was like fire tornadoes, as they call them. You had a huge updraft because there was so much fire, and that will cause wind. So, yes. Which was this, the chicken or the egg in this case? I mean, did the winds cause the fire? Did the fires cause the wind in this case? When you get such horrendous fires, you will get wind.
Yeah, I can tell you 2 weeks prior, Greg, that they have stated, and there's weather evidence for this, that up to 2 weeks prior, there was sustained winds of 70 to 70 miles an hour off and on for 2 weeks. And up to the 3 days before, it was just continuous. The eyewitness accounts of the weather at that time, they said, in many of the accounts, that the wetlands, the swamps were so dry that they feared to walk through them, that their pants would start it on fire. You know, it was so dry. And so these winds on top of this, and honest to God, I mean, you read these testimonies and you start to think it literally was the perfect storm. Had it been some sort of comet that broke apart, asteroid, whatever, to have it happen when there was such a drought, you know, it just, all this culmination.
Okay. All right. Now listen, if it weren't for one data item, I would assume these were random caused fires. I mean, when you got that kind of wind and it's that dry, it would be easy to start fires in multiple locations far apart. It just because you got the wind, you got the fuel from everything being dry, you got the air, you got the means to spread it. You got air, but it's moving fast. So you got all the perfect conditions for fires, and anything that could start a fire would start a fire, and you can expect them to spread. The only thing that leads me toward the idea that it might have been a meteoroid or asteroid is the notion that so many of these fires started almost simultaneously.
That's it,
That,
right?
that seems to be essential. And again, that kind of lines up with that theory of all the holes in the Swiss cheese lining up. Those kind of things happen. Maybe, you know, there have been meteorites that have hit ground before and not started fire many times. Sometimes they can. But, you know, if you get those kind of conditions plus a meteorite that busted up, there might have been more than one, and there might have been a few coming in together. And especially given the separation that I'm seeing there, or it could have been a bit of an asteroid that broke up, small one. It would have been a very small one now as an asteroid. The big asteroid has done a lot more damage than that. So it could have been extraterrestrial. It could have been something coming from space, an object. And I would totally dismiss that if it weren't for the fact that some of these fires started almost simultaneously, because you had perfect conditions for fires anyway.
Yeah, and it's well recorded across the 3 states that they started within a minute to 2 minutes of each other, you know, and
that is the smoking gun that leads me in the direction that something came down and ignited all these fires.
right.
The only thing I can think of, and they're too far apart for lightning. And was there any reports of lightning?
No, there was no rain, there was no storms. It was just wind and dry.
Then that takes me back to the idea that it was meteorites. Like I said, they had been searching, thinking it might have been part of a comet. There was a comet that had broken up earlier. This is some people were trying to look back after this, but the debris cloud of that comet wouldn't have been at Earth's path at that point in time. So they ruled that out, but it didn't mean there couldn't have been. Well, you know, we go to space.com and or spaceweather.com, and you see there's always meteoroids and asteroids passing by. So it could have just been one of those days.
Right.
And
right.
it was just the day that it happened, and it just happened to be in a coincidence of it being dry, windy, and some incendiary device coming in. And that incendiary device normally probably wouldn't have caused that. But in this occasion, you had the heat, you had the dryness, you had the fuel, you had the air, you had the high winds, so you had a firestorm.
Right. Now, Greg, some of the other eyewitness testimonies from a Catholic priest that resided up in Pasteurical, his major, his church, the mother church, and he had a sister church down the road, about an hour, he said, by buggy. He was down the road by an hour, and he describes, Greg.
An hour by buggy is not very far. Let's bring this into modern mindsets. And we think an hour by road is a long way off, but when you're in a buggy, that's pretty close.
Yeah, it was about 30 miles is what it said. And what he describes in his testimony, and I'll share these links with you, is a smell. And he goes into kind of the prophetic part of it, that for days prior to this event, that his parishioners and he had a foreboding in their spirit, he says. And the night that he was supposed to go home, the family that he was staying with, there was 3 families, they had dinner, was begging him to stay because they all felt that something dire was coming. This is the language that they use. They even could smell something in the air. He said, no, I have to get home, because of course he had his pet dog at home. And as he would get home, and he'd be in his house, he just, like he said, he heard the whirlwind, and he didn't have time to get his dog, what have you. He got out, and what he describes is absolute hell on earth. And he goes through this eyewitness testimony about how he's trying to get to the river. He's trying to get to water, and that's what everybody was doing. But once he gets to the water really is not saving everybody. They have to go below. And he said the water itself was on fire, Greg. Now, that's what I don't get, because unless you have a accelerant, right, floating on top of the water, I don't understand how the water itself could be on fire. That's very interesting to me. The Pasteurical Museum online describes how many people died in the river.
What did they die from? Was it
Some
drowning?
of them died of no, there was no oxygen. Even the priest describes, he said his lungs were on fire. He was doing everything just to gasp for oxygen. Some of them made it.
Fire was so intense it just took all the oxygen up.
It just took all the oxygen out. And some of them literally were oven baked while in the water, boiled. I mean, the intensity of this fire, I don't know to date, Greg. I've been researching modern fires. I have not witnessed even so in Chicago, Greg. If you look at the post-apocalyptic pictures of the fire, there was banks that had safes. Now, Greg, as much as I do, how big and thick these cast iron safes were. I mean, a man couldn't move them. 10 men couldn't move them, Entire safes were obliterated to dust. Not melted, Greg, but made to dust.
Well,
I
got a couple of thoughts on that. One, I got a blacksmith's forge, and if you get a fuel, and there was plenty of fuel there with the buildings and the grass and the trees and everything being so dry, and then once you start pumping that air to it, you create enormous heat.
Yes.
It was already windy. There was a source for enormous heat, and because you'd have so much oxygen going into the fire, and that fire would have burned that oxygen up. And that's what was happening to the people. They were in an area where the oxygen was gone. And so they were dying of asphyxiation and being burnt. So the water might have protected their bodies, but they didn't have anything to breathe when they come up. Now I got one other thought to this. Now there could have been, if doing a forge, you will know that you can create quite hot fire. I mean, you can create a hot fire and you can bend steel with it. And so I could see a safe collapsing if a building is on fire and being fanned by a really strong wind. Now, all that said, you said the water was on fire. That kind of leaked. Now, it could have been, it looked that way because the reflections on the water and everybody is panicking. So it might have been an appearance.
Right.
It's also, we're not there. We don't have photographic evidence. There is one other possibility that if it was an extraterrestrial object, it could have been a carbonaceous asteroid or meteoroid. Carbonaceous means it's got carbon and hydrocarbons in it. There are asteroids are rare, but there are asteroids like that. They're most likely to break up, but they also would have a fuel source in them, in the carbon and hydrocarbons. So that could have been the source of an accelerant. And even some comets can have methane and things like that in them that could have also been an accelerant source. So, there's the, from the Bible, there's the ice that burns when it's flung to earth. Well, that's probably just frozen methane.
Right.
So, yeah, you can have burning ice. You literally can, frozen methane. If you could take the hydrogen out of the bottom of the ocean, like the Gulf of Mexico, and fling them out, you could set them on fire and you'd be burning ice. So that's possible. Some people think that's ridiculous. That's funny. You can't burn ice. Well, if it's methane, which can make ice, yeah, you absolutely can burn it. But there's no reports of ice in this case. You're saying it's just like an accelerant. It could have come from a comet, but I'm thinking this is still most likely to have occurred from a meteoroid, a small asteroid that happened to. If there were an accelerant, I would say it was carbonaceous.
Right. The reason I wanted to talk with you, Greg, is because I was thinking about outside of nuclear warfare, right? EMP and these things, these man-made things. The most catastrophic events are from Mother Nature. I mean, nobody can debate that. And so I was looking at this, because the last 5 years, the United States has seen so many fires. It's like, well, how do you prep for something like this? What could you do? My thought process went to immediately food caches, weapons caches, things like this, supply caches under the ground.
Buried. Yeah.
Buried. But here's the problem, Greg. Up in Pasteurical, the fire was so intense, it burned 15 to 20 feet. It literally burned all the root systems out of the ground that deep. There was holes in the ground 15 to 20 feet deep where it had burned in. So if we're talking about burying something, obviously it's got to be away from trees where there's no root system to catch and fire and go down. So that's not even a given. You know, you almost have to have food caches in different places, not just on your property.
Well, that is always the best thing to do, is to have it distributed around. And that's why, you know, when I show those little buckets, I show people often, if you go to prepwithgreg.com, you can get food that's really easy to bury, you know, those buckets I show. And right now we got a special, get $150 off a 3-month supply. But guys, you know, I would say, yeah, separate it, bury it in different places. That's what a food cache is for. Especially if you got a bug out location, you might want to create a cache en route to wherever your location is at. If you're hoofing it on foot, you're gonna be looking for something to eat along the way. I mean, and maybe just a few packets here and there. You can do that. Maybe a little water here and there, just something that you can survive on until you get to your destination, wherever it's going to be. But yeah, spreading things around is always a smart thing. I would say probably if you went to Dresden, when we firebombed Dresden, you'd find the same kind of effects as what you're describing. Probably some of the fires out west would have even caused the same kind of effects as what you're describing. Nuclear, you know, a nuclear event. Oh yeah. You would be burning all kind of stuff, you know, it would be awful.
Right.
So yeah, I could see this, that but yeah, I guess the lessons learned from this are as follows. You can always have an event that's going to challenge your survival. It could be, you know, when the asteroids hit that killed the dinosaurs, you had global fires, and we believe there was some of us believe there was a collision 12,000, roughly 500 years ago on the Laurentide ice sheet that wiped out the original natives of North America, and including the megafauna, the big animals. The cultures in North America at that time had Clovis points. The cultures that replaced them did not. And the Clovis points are more similar to points that were made in France, not Asia. So North America was probably populated by Europeans originally, and it probably got completely wiped out. And completely. And there's bays called Carolina Bays that point to this collision. It was horrendous what happened in the Americas at that point. So you can have events that would occur from natural sources that can be catastrophic. 9.5 earthquake off Chile a couple times. One of them, they just found that they're the most powerful one recorded that we know of in history of man of modern times, was 3,800 years ago, and it caused tsunamis in New Zealand that moved giant boulders on shore from the ocean. So these things can happen. Things that would blow your mind can happen from Mother Nature. This is why you need to be prepared. You need to get ready. CME from the sun would do us a lot of damage in our modern civilization. And right now the sun is all cocked and primed to start. It's been throwing out all kind of storms recently. You know, we don't know what can come right now. Eventually one's going to get us if we don't get our grid hardened, and we've been way too slow about it. Some of us are out here trying to bring attention to this. We spend a lot of our own personal time and money trying to draw attention to this. I've chaired 2 conferences on that, and the last conference cost me and my co-supporters, our Huntsville committee, shelled out a lot of money out of pocket. I mean, a lot. So but we continue to do these things because we know it's important, it's vital. But for the individual, you know, I say, hey, let's keep pushing that we do these things to try to give our society more resilience through survival. But in the meantime, yeah, your underground homes are great. You know, think about things that give you a little bit more margin. It's not a guarantee, especially if something's going to burn stuff 20 feet underground, but it gives you margin. If you're not right there at the ground zero, your chances are better. Now, there's a good thing. Ground zero is seldom everywhere, unless it's a giant asteroid. Now, this comet that's out there, that's going to go out, you know, reach into about the orbit of Saturn. The thing's like over 100 miles in diameter. It is ginormous. Thankfully, that's not coming here. But
thank God.
If we got hit by something like that, we're over. We're done. There is no surviving it on Earth unless you get off the planet.
Right.
And at some distance away from the planet, because this would kick stuff out into space. It would shatter the crust of the Earth all the way
Yeah.
around. And yeah, there would be ocean and Earth crustal matter kicked into space. It would be on a few moons. A lot of this stuff that would be an unimaginable, you know, it would make the dinosaur extinction look like a Sunday picnic. It would be,
Yeah.
it would be awful. These
That
are
is
within the realms of possibility. Now, we don't see that anything like that, fortunately, has happened on our planet in probably at least 3.8 billion years. So we've been fortunate in that regard. But when the moon was created, there was something even bigger hit, apparently. So we're lucky right now. We're lucky that we've had all this time on this planet, but you never know. You just never know.
Yeah.
Prep, do everything you can to get ready, and just stay right with your maker, and make sure that your family and friends love them.
That's it. And, you know, Greg, I tell people like this priest and his parishioners, and even the eyewitness accounts in Chicago, there was a collective spiritual awakening in a sense, where the creator was speaking to these peoples, either don't go or get out. If you get that, and I call it a gut feeling. I had that when I was 12 before I was raped, Greg. I knew not to go there. I had it, but I was pushed into a situation. But that's the spirit of God telling you, stop, I'm trying to keep you safe. Listen to your gut. That's, people can call it, you know, we call it women's intuition, whatever you want to call it. That's the first thing to listen to, is that gut instinct. And you know, animals got senses, right? For some reason, you know, human beings don't think we have senses about events to come.
We don't listen. We ignore. We think we're smarter and better, and we dismiss things. We rationalize things away. We laugh at things. We scoff. So and we turn our senses down just by the action of doing that many times over. When you're a kid, you're a lot more sensitive than you typically are when you're older. But we're so cynical that we just shut all that down. Now, you have been blessed to be a person who's received gifts of insight, of basically what we would call prophecy. And that's one of the things that pulled us together, is that you had a dream of something that no ordinary girl milking cows in Wisconsin should have been able to understand. And I was really shocked by how uncanny it was, because you were talking about stuff that it would take an expert military analyst to figure out. And that was how a sneak attack could actually be done on the United States to do an EMP, something I was actually already worried about. And you just pop up and start talking about this. And I'm going, well, how does she know this? How did she get this idea? And you didn't know anything about it previously. You got this vision from God, a warning.
Yeah. I didn't even know what an EMP was at the time. I had been seeking, what is this? You know, I didn't know, I didn't have words to even put a title on it, you know. And that's how I came across you, because I was searching for answers on what I was seeing and what it was. And now, of course, I know, you know, seeing the videos and of what this would look like, I was like, oh, that's what I saw, you know.
Yeah,
and it really was.
For those that are new to the channel, Stacy had a vision of 2 missiles being launched from offshore of Venezuela. And these missiles detonated over America and wiped out our power grid. In her vision, one hit the East Coast and one over Middle America. This could totally wipe out our power grid if something like that happened. Now, the thing about launching off the coast of Venezuela is that's how you can have deniability. It would be the classical one. For one, we don't have anything monitoring to the south. All our stuff looking for nuclear launches or looking over the poles to see if Russia's launching us. Oh yeah, when Russia's just developed this new Satan II RS 68 Sarmont missile, which actually could launch over the South Pole. And we don't have anything looking down there. We don't have anything to defend us from that standpoint. So if somebody wanted to launch at us from the Caribbean, off the shore of Venezuela, from the Gulf of Mexico, we wouldn't know it was coming. Now, the thing about Venezuela, and why that would be the ideal choice for somebody that wanted to put an EMP sneak attack on us, is as follows. all the players who could or would attack us all operate in and out of Venezuela, North Korea, Iran, Russia, China. They are all intimately involved and sell weapons to Venezuela. Iran sells missiles to Venezuela. And it caused a lot of consternation when President Trump was president. You don't hear much about it right now, but China has been doing some ship launch missiles. They just launched a missile from a ship here just within the last week. And they've also shown how they could do another particular type of missile from a shipping container. So like you got cargo and suddenly you open the top and out pops a missile. And it could come from anywhere. So there are several players that can launch this. It would be the classic who done it. Who do you attack? You attack everybody? Who did it? Would be the big question. You would have no way, absolutely no, unless you caught the boat that did it, that launched it red-handed. And what's the chances you're going to do that down in Venezuela, which crawling with Russians and Chinese and everybody else that anybody and everybody that's not a big love fest with North America, with the United States, is down in Venezuela like fleas on a dog's back. So this is something that to be concerned about. And then Stacy would see that in a vision. Shocked me, blew my mind. It's like that caught my attention like a huge blip on a radar or something coming right at my forehead. It's like, holy smoke. And she had no knowledge of this kind of stuff. She called me just asking basic questions like, Greg, what is this? What is that? And it's like, really? You saw that? You saw this? Holy smoke. That to me spoke immense credibility. Now, I mentioned this because she mentioned that these people had these premonitions before the Chicago fire. You may have premonitions before something occurs. Pay attention. Pay attention. Pray. And seek truth. But I think this also speaks to, this is still a danger right now. We are poking the bear at the moment, and the dragon ain't happy with us either. So, we've got some enemies in this world between that really could take us out, and it might be in their advantage to not to have to deal with us anymore. And if we had our grid taken down, they pretty much wouldn't have to deal with us anymore.
I don't know how far you can push a nation into a corner before you think they're not going to come out swinging. I just don't, the bottom line is no matter what you believe politically, sanctions are an act of war. Sanctions can cripple a country. And when a country is crippled, they become desperate. They become erratic. And that's what that's my big concern. I have to tell you, Greg, I'm on my channel, Sustainable Stewards and Battle Axe. Battle Axe is more like religious, political, and I try to expose things there. But Sustainable Stewards, where I'm going to be putting this, is preparation and different events, things like this, farming and homesteading. But the whole thing about this is, and I've said, is I've had to tell people continuously, please be sober minded. Please, stand in all hope. Keep your peace. Because I'll be honest with you, Greg, I'm at peace right now. You have to take advantage of those moments of peace and hope, because those are the moments when you can get work done. Those are the moments that you are able to prepare. And if you let every news article and every threat and every situation here, all the conspiracy, whether it's conspiracy or truth, all this, the fireworks, that's going to overtake you, and you can't focus on the job you need to do to prepare your family for hard times. And that's where I'm at right now. My daughter asked me.
I want to add to that. I got friends that do that. They spend so much time watching every video that goes around. They're not doing anything else.
Right.
So I consume enough news to be able to report to you guys, but I do this for the following reason, so that you will take seriously the gravity of the fact you need to prep. I get people get caught up in the nuts and bolts of it, the politics of this, that. Forget all that. That
Right.
don't, in the end, when a missile's coming at you, that don't matter no more.
Exactly.
It
Exactly.
don't matter no more. I mean, you know, you may not agree with this president, you may think he's wrong, and I don't agree with him either. But if he does something that puts a missile coming at us, we're all going to feel it. My point is as follows: get yourself ready. That is
That's
my
right.
point, and it doesn't have anything to do with politics. So don't get caught up in all the
Right.
nuts and the bolts of it. There's so many things that could take us down right now. It's not funny. It's ludicrous, all the ways that our society could spin out of control, that we could lose our power grid, that we could lose our civilization as we know it. There are way too many ways for that to happen.
Right.
And right now, there's a lot of people who may have an interest in doing it. I mean, right now, the means and the motive exist for people to do this to us. They got the means
Yes.
and they got the motive. What keeps them from doing it? Russia's got the means. Russia's got the motive. China has the means. They're pretty close to having the motive. And you could say the same for North Korea. Iran may fit in that category also. Or even
Right.
Venezuela, from the stuff that's been sold to them. Who knows what Venezuela actually does or doesn't have. So there are so many. And then again, hackers. You got to consider hackers. You got to consider people that can do ballistic, direct kinetic attacks on substations. I mean, physically, they're doing things to them that could take down our grid. You know, 9 critical substations in this country could do us in. There's so many ways to do so much damage to us for so little, to put so much hurt on us for so little effort, comparatively speaking. It's obscene.
Right. Right.
It's
Yeah.
just absolutely obscene how
Yeah.
small groups could take this country down. And you know, I'm not putting out anything they don't already know. I mean, some people, I've had people say,
Right.
"Okay, you shouldn't give them ideas." Oh, they actually publish that they understand this and they talk about it. So
Right.
we're not putting any ideas in their heads. It's already there. I mean, the
Right.
head of the Iranian Revolutionary Guard, somebody went to him and said, "Hey, do you realize that if you took out 9 of America's critical," and this actually was published from our side, 9 of America's critical transformer substations, that you could take down the entire American power grid? And then the guy replied, "I've got sleeper cells in America. We've already got 22 of them targeted." So
Yeah. Yeah.
I think, what are they, you know, those sleeper cells haven't had the signal to go yet. What is their signal? What are they waiting on?
Right.
You know, they're not going to do it until it's like the full pitched war. But I could see that coming in the not too distant future if we're not
Right.
careful.
Right.
You know, China, Russia, you know, North Korea, anything, or even just between Israel and Iran. There are so many potential trigger points right now that could set this
Yeah.
kind of stuff off. And then, of course, there's the sun. And the
Yeah.
sun is out there singing in terms of shooting out. It's cleared its throat and it's pitching out X-class flares, M-class
Right.
flares. Guys, pay attention. We had within 24 hours yesterday, they reported 19 flares, most of them M-class flares and an X2.2. And that sunspot is still beginning to get more and more close to facing us directly. So
Yeah.
it could do, we don't know what it could do. It could do, it's definitely shown it can do X-class flares. It could.
And Greg, that's why I tell people, you know, literally prepare for the worst event you can imagine. And that way, whether it's job loss, whether it's inflation, whether it's an EMP, right, or a CME, if you're prepared for the worst of situations and you have 3 to 5 years food supply, whatever that entails for you, security, all those things that you need, well, then we don't have to look at every, you know, because like right now, I get so up, you know, I'm in agriculture, right? And people come on my channel all the time and tell me that I'm, pardon my language, but full of shit and I'm naive. You know, us farmers, we're just naive to the challenges of agriculture, right? And I tell people, listen, we are facing inflation. We are facing you know, fertilizer issues. But like today, I brought a video and I gave a silver lining in the situation. Said, hey, look at this. Wisconsin's been shielded from a lot of this because we produce so much manure. And now here's an opportunity for Wisconsin to transport to, you know, manure to our, you know, our neighboring states, and other states can do this. There are solutions to the problems we face. The problem that I see, Greg, is people don't just prepare, they're just so muddled down that they come to a grinding halt, right? They're not doing what
People are,
they need.
you know what? People are trained to think inside the box. Stay inside
Right.
the box. Be a good little citizen and do as you're told and stay inside the box. That's kind of against my religion. I like to bust the box down and jump around all over the place. But if like you're saying, you've got a state that produces a lot of manure because you've got a lot of cows, and there are other states that have a lot of cows. Actually, when I was a kid, what state would you think had the largest cattlemen's association in the world back in the 1960s or early 70s?
1960s, 70s. Gosh, wasn't it like Louisiana or Georgia or something back then?
It was Alabama.
Yeah,
My family was a member of it.
yeah.
Yeah. But Tennessee's got a lot of cattle. I mean, Tennessee probably has more cattle than Alabama, but
Right.
we just happen to have had, we had a lot of small farms that had cattle, and enough cattle, that people were joining the cattlemen's associations back then.
Right.
People don't tend to join things today. I don't know who's got the largest one today, but yeah, I use horse manure for my worms. And
Right.
worms make the compost. And I mean, I'm producing stuff that will feed people in the worst
Right.
situations. And you can do that too. And worms are part of the solution. But if you watch the video I did with Jason Avers just a few weeks ago, we talked about how to create and brew just from your compost and plant matters,
Right.
the kind of fertilizers you need to sustain your ability to garden. These are things that can be done. But if your mind is stuck on the idea you got to go to the store and buy stuff, you're a loser because you can't
Right.
make a situation like that.
Right.
And these fertilizers that come from the stores are going to be god awful expensive, and that is going to affect the regular farmers. Your market farmers tend to be people that grow more organically, that grow smaller plots like you do. You've got your
Right.
own. You are a market gardener, as I am.
Yeah.
And I tell people on my channel all the time, and this following advice. I say buy local, spend
Yes.
your money locally. Go to your local farmers and buy food. You're going to get better quality food. It's going to be fresher. You may even get it cheaper in many cases than what you would get it from the stores, especially if you're buying meats. And furthermore, it just depends on who you go to and what you're getting. But furthermore, if you're worried about the environment, if that's one of those things you worry about, whether you worry about that or not, you definitely have eliminated a lot of transportation and packing and refrigeration and just handling it kind of cost associated with it.
Yes.
So it's from the farm to the fork.
Right.
The shorter you make that path, the better your food is, the more nutritious it is.
And Greg, there's a lot of food out there. What I'm focusing right now on Sustainable Stewards is teaching people where to find local food. The sad part of it is people could live in a community for 10, 15 years, and they don't know that 6 blocks down the road, there's a farm store. I mean, it's people are that inept nowadays. I just did an interview today at Weber Farms in central Wisconsin here. Literally, 5-generation farm. And I didn't have to buy beef. I didn't have, because I produce my own. But I wanted to support, and I wanted to show that I'm supporting my community. Greg, do you know how much I paid for a pound of beef from them? That, yes, guys, came from the dairy farm, because dairy farms do produce beef, because there's the boys, get cut and they get turned into beef, and the old ladies get turned into hamburger. It was $4.89 a pound. That same, not the same meat, but that same pound of hamburger down the road at Walmart is selling for almost $7 a pound. So you can buy local from small mom and pop shops and get it cheaper. Or, and even if it's not cheaper, Greg, it's worth supporting your community. Back in 2008, when businesses were going out of business, this farm expanded and thrived, building this farm store, and they have a cheese factory. So that's the power of local. And my whole goal in life is to teach people where to find food and how to support the local farms. Because even places like Chicago has 300 farms within 200 miles around it.
There's people that grow food in Chicago. There's that.
In Chicago.
What's that guy's
Urban-
name? Wilbur Allen? That's not Wilbur Allen. It's somebody on Rex's channel. There's a guy, Wilbur something, black guy who was a sports guy. And
Oh, he was actually in Milwaukee. Yeah.
Milwaukee. Okay. Yeah. Okay. What's his name? You know who I'm talking about.
I actually met him once, and God forgive me, I cannot remember his name. It'll pop up. I'll put it in. I will send you the link to it. But yes, he was an ex football player, and he started a huge aquaponics setup in what's literally considered the food desert of Milwaukee. It's a predominantly Black community. They have fast food restaurants on every corner, like McDonald's and Hardee's and things like that. They have no grocery stores. They have no fresh produce.
Yeah,
So
but
he
that food is
started
killing people. It's not real food.
Yep.
There's no nutrition. It's full of junk. And he
Yep.
came up with healthy food, and he does a phenomenal job. The guy's brilliant, and you know, everybody should just put their hat off to that guy. He's an amazing individual. Big, tall man. It might scare the bejesus out of some people just look at him. He's one of the nicest guys around.
He's a big man. I stood next.
I've seen video of him. He is a big man. I know that from seeing him in video, but he comes across one of the nicest men you'll ever meet. And what he's doing is phenomenally. And he's just been a genius with a big golden heart. So that's possible. These are the things that are possible that people need to consider, that we could grow food anywhere, but you got to put your mind to it. You got to get outside the box. That's what he did. He saw a problem and he created a solution to it. I mean, you know, too many people give up too fast. I tell you this, we could feed 2 billion people from the lawns of North America alone. I keep telling people that, quit growing the darn grass, overthrow your homeowners association, fire them all, and get laws passed to ban them. You know, they're full of it. They're full of mess, because you know we could feed this country just off our lawns, and you could be a farmer. You know, the Gervais family in Pasadena, California. And on a 1/10 of an acre, they've grown enough food in their backyard to feed them, and they sell from it. They don't make grain products, but
and Greg, I've been telling people, listen, stop fretting about the inflation with the food. Stop fretting about it, because what the silver lining, Greg, is it is pushing sustainability. It's forcing the industrial agricultural system to look at more sustainable methods of farming. That's a fantastic situation right there. And if you had any thought about becoming a producer, it doesn't matter whether it's a CSA for restaurants, you know, pastured meats on small acre, doesn't matter. Now is the time to get in farming, because people want local. This could be the great agricultural, regenerative agricultural boom of our history in this country.
That's what we need, and it could happen. You know, I got this concept for a home that you can live out of, make a living out of, and you really wouldn't need much of anything from anybody, including, you know, water, power, heat, or you got so much stuff at your fingertips, you wouldn't even need a whole lot of transportation. It would be incredible. And this is kind of the visions that I get, is just ways to make life so much better. It would be, you know, resilient to most of your radiation, winds, fire. You know, you could solve so many problems with this universal habitat concept again. I am planning to build some of them in the not too distant future. I'm hoping that's one of my big goals, is just to show people what's possible. I would never be the philosophy, well, you got to live in this because we got to get fishing. Like so many people want to tell you how to do things. No, I believe that we come up with an idea and we make it so beautiful that nobody would ever want anything else. And I think we can do that with this. But you know, you don't have to build my universal habitat. You can take the principles that I'm talking about and incorporate them into your homes and homesteads, and gain a lot of efficiencies and have the kind of revolution that Stacy's talking about here. I firmly believe it. Now, in the meantime, yeah, food's going up. You're going to, until you change gears and move things around, you're going to pay more for food right now. But that's just a given. Now, in some countries like say Egypt gets almost all their grain from Ukraine. Well, they're not going to get any grain from Ukraine this year. They ain't going to get nothing shipped out of Ukraine this year. If you're reliant on Ukraine and Russia for your grains, you're going to be without.
Yes.
And so a lot of countries are going to be in a world of hurt. Now, we'll be trying to support some of them. China won't be. China, and here's what's odd. China has stockpiled most of the world's grain. They have a huge stockpile. They've been buying like crazy. And then we found out they've been storing it. Did China
Yes.
know this was coming? Did China and did Putin and Xi Jinping coordinate this? Did China know ahead of time what was about to come down? I don't know, but this was a recent thing that they just started recently, and they did it. And they did it just in time, which kind of makes me suspicious. They knew something the rest of the world didn't know. Now maybe they thought they were going to start all this, and maybe their thunder got stolen by Putin. I don't know, but they definitely were prepared for something. Now maybe they know something we don't know that we still haven't seen.
Right.
The other
Right.
used to drop. If you have a nuclear winter type event, or an asteroidal winter, or a volcanic winter, it might be a few years if you can grow anything. Then you are going to be in a world hurt for food. That's why you really want to store food. Any good farmer knows you grow more than you need, and you store it. You store
Yes.
food. When I was a kid, the farms around where I grew up, their rule of thumb was to have enough food set aside for 7 years if they could. I knew
Yeah.
farms that had enormous pantries, that had enormous well houses. I mean, big families, and they had a lot of food put up, and
Yes.
they ate off that food. They would eat off the older food. That's how they
And
would survive.
that's what I generally do. Depending on the yields that year, the minimum I put up is 3 years. The maximum I put up is 5, because you don't know, you could have 2 years of fantastic yields. And then you have a year like we did 3-4 years ago, where it rained every day of the week, but one, right? And we had 100-mile-an-hour, inline winds that destroyed some stuff. And then you're not putting no food up. So you need to grow enough food in the times of plenty. So in the times you don't, you can live off of it.
Well,
And that's,
there's lessons. There's lessons in Joseph's interpretation of the favored
yes,
streams. They had their fat times and they had their thin times. You use the fat times
yeah,
to put the food away, to store it. And they did that, and they survived the thin times because Joseph was able to interpret the dreams of the Pharaoh, and they did that. Now, some people won't believe that, but whatever. What we talk about, God has a way of warning people of things to come.
right.
And whether you believe it or not, that's just good advice. It's good
Yes.
advice in general to take care of when you got the opportunity. I got a little saying I like to get it while the getting's good. Right now,
Yes,
you still got some getting. You can do some getting.
that's right.
Do the getting now, and just be ready for whatever may come. Let's hope these things don't come. But right now, inside the United States, there will be food. There will
Right.
be. It may not be moving. If we have a big enough catastrophe, then there may not be food.
Yeah.
The amount of food in the stores isn't that much. So it's got to go from the grain to the processing mills and warehouses, and then to the stores. They like to do just in time stuff these days. So
Yeah. The Walmarts used to have 3 days, 3 days backup. Now it's 24 hours. So if there is a glitch in that transportation system, that's it. It's going to get backed up, 3 days a week, whatever it is.
the transportation system requires power.
Right.
It takes power to pump fuel. If you're not pumping fuel, you're not running trucks.
Right.
So,
But like the farm that I went to today, Greg, they had to move the actual, pit and stuff a little further away from the town because the town encroached. But they got their replacers cows right next door, and the farm is 2 miles down the road. It's right there. So the transportation footprint is small. So you got to keep pounding people local, and push.
local, spend your money local. I keep saying, but hey, there may also be your source of jobs because a lot of these farms are using equipment that takes power, that takes fuel. A lot of their tractors and tools may not be available to them. They may be wanting to hire people. Those milk machines may not be working without power. You might get a job as a tit puller.
Yeah, and I've done videos on that.
It's just the way, milking cows. That's the way we did it when I was a kid.
I've done videos on that, Greg, how to approach farms, dairy farms, different types of farms in the case of an EMP, lights out. Get to know them now, guys. Get to know your farmers, your neighboring farmers now. They're not going to let you starve. They're not going to do it. But you're going to have to know how to approach them. You can't just go barreling up their driveway thinking that you're going to take their cows, or you're going to take this or that.
Gotta get
You
the
scratch
shot.
their back and they scratch yours.
Yeah, they're going to be in a need too. They're going to need help. They're
Yep.
going to need labor. They've
That's
got
right.
land, but they need people that will work, just like in the old days when before we had all this stuff. 90% of our country lived out in the rural areas because it took a lot of people to do the manual labor to produce food.
Yes.
It took 90% of the people. We could do that again, but that's what it's going to take. So these farmers are going to need people. They can set up sharecropping arrangements or whatever it takes in order to continue to produce and to feed you. Now, a lot of them are unfortunately using Monsanto seeds and all that junk. They're not going to be able to use that. But, you know, hopefully people will start putting back heirloom seeds, open air pollinated seeds, whatever you want to call them, so that they can replant. And that's what I tell everybody to buy them. It's what I tell people to do when they go to True Leaf Market. Look for those seeds that's available through them, non-GMO seeds. That's what you need so that you can get the same plants back.
Yes. Yes.
Don't buy all that hybrid junk. Plant stuff that you might have a plant or two if you want a ginormous tomato, but they're big tomatoes that you can get through heirloom.
Yeah.
I highly encourage everybody to do everything they can with seeds you can replant.
That's right.
And look, guys, we can get through this. We can come out pretty strong if we're smart now. But you've also got to educate your friends and your family. You got to, you know, that's one reason I put out so many videos and I cover such a broad range of topics, is I have the hope that you won't just sit there and watch me all day, that you will take these videos and show them to your friends and friends. Guys, we really need to do something. Y'all need to do, and here's why. This is
right.
real. This is real. You need to pay attention. And you say, hey, this Green Greg, yeah, he might be a worm farmer, but he's also a rocket scientist. He knows a little bit about numbers. Now, I might know something about the electrical grid, as I'm an electrical engineer. I chaired
my husband says to me, what does, I said, well, he's an electrical engineer. And I said, he's a rocket scientist and a worm farmer and a small producer. He's like, rocket scientist and a worm farmer.
Perfect sense to me. Well, hey, I see the opportunity for the future in bad times. The worm farm will be the go-to industry. So I got the foresight to be able to see that. You know, it's like, okay, if a grid goes down, you know, there's not going to be a lot of demand for rocket science at that point. But worm farming, darn right, that's going to be in huge demand.
Unless that 100-mile asteroid's coming, Greg is going to be riding that rocket out to space. He'll be the only one on it, though.
There you go. There you go. That'd be the place to be. It's not on Earth. Especially if something big as that comet come around, you don't want to be close to the planet if we were to get hit with something like that. That would be an ugly day. Let's hope that day never comes, and maybe it won't. We've dodged it for a long time, but we got one in our solar system. Yikes. But anyway, well, I've had a lot of good adventures. I can say that. It's been an interesting life, and I'm not done. I'm just getting started. I want to build that universal habitat and do some other things. So I think my whole life I've just been in the pupal stage, you know, like a larva. Now hopefully I'm about to come out.
You're never too old to do good things. That's such a lie our society says.
Amen. Amen. Amen to that. So guys, we have a lot of possible opportunities, but you got to see it. But you know, yeah, we got a lot of threats coming at us right now, and our society could be put in a world of hurt. The biggest thing, our biggest problem, if the grid goes down, or if we have a various source of it hits the fan, it's going to be all those people that didn't prep, that didn't prepare, because they're going to be coming out of the woodwork hunting something to eat. And often it may be you. I mean, you may run out of other food, but you may be the long pork. I tell everybody, don't be the long pork. But one of the best ways you can do it is to share these ideas. Everybody needs to prep. The more people that prep, the less problems we will have as a society. The more people can grow their own food, the more people know how to go out and wild forage.
Yes.
I got videos on growing food. You have video. You got a lot more videos on growing food. I got videos on wild foraging.
Yes.
So these are all skill sets, wild medicinals. These are all skill sets that everybody needs to have. I've shown enough, you know, it's not, you know, totally comprehensive. There are channels that cover more, but I have shown enough videos on like purifying and sanitizing water. And only one video covers that topic pretty well.
Right.
And I have, and I did a very extensive video on that. And then I have covered enough material for wild edibles. If you live in this region of the country, you should never starve unless things just don't grow at all.
Right. Right.
Okay, you got a problem. But as long as things are growing, there's stuff growing out here year round. I could eat.
Right. Right. And if we hit a nuclear winter, Greg, we got to grow in the house. Do it in the house.
And
You
I've
know,
done that.
do what you
Hey.
can.
My video started out with growing microgreens in my living room, and now I grow them in a trailer, and I'm building a building and grow mushrooms there. So,
Yeah.
and it's
Yeah.
almost done. The mushroom building is almost done.
I can't wait to see that mushroom setup you got. I've done mushrooms a lot in the past, but I'm doing the logs this year out in the shade, and I'm actually going to be taking my subscription, my viewership, and I'm going to a bigger farm that distributes blocks across the country, and I'm going to take them on a tour of that place. So it's actually in Pasteurical, Wisconsin. I'm going to that fire museum, and I'm going to the mushroom farm in one day.
Nice. Well, you cover a problem and a solution all in one fell swoop when you do that.
That's right.
So, yeah, there's always solutions. Now, if you're at ground zero and it hits you on top of the head, you're not going to make it. But most people aren't going to be at ground zero.
And even if you make it, Greg, but you're not thriving, that's where your community comes in.
Bingo.
That's where you join with your community.
And I'm working on survival communities. There's a lot of other groups out there that are doing that too. So we got Wise Owl working with it now. So I got to have some conversations with her. But guys, I do firmly believe that we can get through all this. We can survive, we can thrive, and stay out of the hive. The hive. Now, here's what a lot of people mistake me a lot of times. They think, oh, that because I might cover a topic and not put it out there as they said, that I'm somehow falling for the banksters. No way. You know me, Stacy. You know I'm dead set against the banksters and that crowd, against the ones who want to globalize everything and put us in their shackles and tell us that we'll never own anything and be happy. That don't make any sense to me at all. I believe in our constitutional freedoms. I believe in our every one of those rights to bear all kind of freedoms, if you know what I mean.
That's right.
And I founded the Freedom Restoration Foundation for that reason. But I also tell you guys that if you want to stay out of the hive, if you don't buy their junk, don't empower those big corporate types who are trying to push us in their system.
That's right.
It goes back to every time you spend one of these, you're voting. So are you going to vote for them? Or are you going to vote for your friends and neighbors?
Right.
Who would you rather vote for? So don't lecture me on nothing about this. Go support your friends, your neighbors, your locals. If you're serious, that's what you're going to do. Support your local farmers, your local artisans, your local tradesmen, your local journeyman, your local plumbers, your local electricians. Don't go to even the bigger companies in your town. Go to the individuals every time you can get
That's
a
right.
chance.
And God dang it, pay cash. Use cash. Stop using all these dang credit cards and all these, bank cards. Their whole goal is to get rid of it so that they can tax everything you do. You buy a vehicle, sell it 5 years later, you're going to tax you on it again.
Well, yeah, they want to come up with this central bank digital currency.
Yes.
And the central bank digital currency will track everything you do. And they'll even be able to fix it where you can't spend it on methods that they don't approve of.
Right.
It's like if they don't approve of something, you can't buy it.
Yep.
Or they may limit how much of something you can buy. They may limit how much fuel you can buy. They may limit how many cans of beans you can buy.
Exactly.
It's not your money. It might be in your account, but it's not your money if they got that kind of control on it. Or maybe if they don't like you and your social credit score is low, they might sanction you and jerk the money out of your account. They might treat you like they're treating Vladimir Putin and Russia and the oligarchs.
Exactly.
Yachts, and they're seizing their yachts. Maybe these oligarchs don't all support what's going on over there. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. But the power our government is showing and the willingness to take things from people has no limits.
Property.
No limits. So you might approve of what they're doing there, but when it comes to you, what are you going to think? Because you may not be in league with the people that are in the White House or Congress at some particular moment in time. Their views might be different. Greta Thunberg may be president of the United States. I don't know what country she's from, but somebody like that. Oh yeah, I think there's a new disease. Let's see. There's a disease out there. It's I would call it Thornburgism or something like that, where people think it a Thornburg delusionism. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, yeah.
If you believe in certain things, you might be afflicted with a severe case of Thornburg delusionism.
It's a legit disorder.
It's a mental. It is a mental disorder.
A lot of that going around these days.
Yeah, there's a lot of those. So, and there's, guys, we live in an age, therefore there's a lot of psyops. There's a lot of propaganda that's coming heavy from both sides, and people fall into a lot of it very easily. And each side puts up quite a case. And the best lies have got a big cylinder of truth in the middle, and all you got to do is just put a little spin on it to throw you off course. And that's how things happen. You'll see that center truth and go, oh yeah, these guys are right, but then they get that little spin that'll set you off in the wrong direction, making you think this or that or the other is going to happen, and it don't. So be careful, be wary. It's important to have an open mind, but make sure it's not so open that your brains fall out.
Right. That's exactly right.
So be discerning, question everything, and and we all have our world views, but that don't mean listen. There's 7 billion people on this world. No two worldviews are exactly alike. That means only one could possibly be absolutely right. But probabilistically speaking, we're all wrong.
Right.
So let's get humble. The first thing we need to do is be humble and realize that, and chances are we're wrong from the get-go, and everybody else is too. So once you realize that everybody is wrong, then maybe you can start to open your eyes to see what is out there. Only then can you really be open enough to begin to appreciate things. Everybody's wrong. You take 2 PhDs who are experts in the exact same thing. They can go to the exact same school, and they can both be high in expertise in this one little thing. That's what a PhD is anyway. They build a lot of expertise up on one particular topic. But you take 2 guys with the exact same expert, and they will fight like cats and dogs and not agree one little bit.
Yep.
So go figure what that means. So I've heard somebody, well, this guy was a doctor and he said it, so it must be so. I'm going, give me a break. He's an idiot.
Exactly. Yep.
I deal with PhDs all the time. I live in Huntsville, Alabama. You can't throw a rock without hitting at least 2 or 3 PhDs, 2 or 3 rocket scientists or something like that. I might know something about that. I don't have a PhD, but I've definitely done a rocket science bit.
Yes, yes, yes.
My PhD is just piled higher and deeper. That's all that is. Hard knocks. I've had plenty of that. I put myself through school. So, guys, the bottom line is this. We've gone long here. The bottom line is this. There are credible threats that can really change our world overnight. It might just be a car wreck. You never know. A year ago, in fact, it was right at a year ago now that I had a car wreck. And, one minute everything was fine. Next minute, I am totally out of control because I got hit by a big truck. And I was hurtling toward a telephone pole. I got rear-ended and I was hurtling. I couldn't even reach the brakes because I got thrown backwards. When it hit me in the rear, putting me backwards, threw me away from the brake pedal. I'm trying to get down to the brake pedal to mash the brakes before I hit that pole, and I couldn't get there fast enough. Threw the stuff out of my pockets.
Wow.
I'm looking, the stuff that was in my pockets got thrown out. That's how hard I got hit from behind.
Wow.
So yeah, a big truck hit me. I mean, geez.
Yeah.
In 1 second everything's fine. The next second your world is a different place. This could happen in so many different ways. Natural catastrophes, man-made catastrophes. The tensions in the world today are all the economy is a house of cards built on a shore of sand next to a rising river, and the winds are picking up. So there's a lot of challenges right now, but we can make it. We just got to have the wisdom to do the things that we need to do. Yeah, there will be those that won't make it, but like I said, if you're ground zero and you get hit, your prospects are low. Most people aren't at ground zero. Most people are at some distance away from it, and it's those people who've got to figure out how to survive. Oh yeah, by the way, now I've started back to work. I'm working at ground zero. I'm working on an arsenal, which is a target. just in time as the tensions are ratcheting up. So really, of all times for us, after 2 years of being out, now that we're looking at maybe World War III, you send me back on the arsenal. Lovely. But I'm not there all day.
Right.
Probabilistically speaking, if you're rolling dice, I got better. My odds are better than mine.
That's right. That's right.
So,
Yeah.
And there are situations where you can't get out because there'll be so many people trying to escape that the traffic would be backed up. You just not going to have any way to get out. Fortunately, the building I'm in has a basement, and that would be my first thing to do, would be to run for the basement and hope and pray for the best.
That's all you can do, like the situation with these fires in 1871. You just can't prepare for everything. And that was a society that was prepared back in the 1870s.
They lived prepared. That was the way they lived.
That's right.
So, but then again, it's not everybody that's going to get hit directly.
That's right.
How do you survive when you're left standing? Now, that's going to be the challenge. A lot of people won't make that.
Right.
More people will die outside of ground zero than there are people in ground zero. That happens when there's a nuclear event. More people outside that circle die over time. If the power grid goes down, it's not immediately going to kill anybody, unless
Right.
wrecks maybe where the red lights are out. If it's an EMP, some planes will be crashing. But aside from that, most people will survive immediately. It's going to be the after effects that get you.
And there'll be a lot of people that just give up. I mean, I know Christians, Greg, that will tell you if the rapture never happens, that they're just going to die because they don't want to be here.
Well, they obviously haven't read Revelations talking about the martyrs and the things that's going to happen to a lot of Christians. So
we're called to endure.
That means that you believe in a faith that tells you don't have to have the endurance, and I think that's kind of a blasphemy. You got to be willing to stick with it. And not be. Are you a sunshine Christian? I mean, you're only going to believe. You're only going to believe while things are great and wonderful, like a weekend warrior. We start the guard, of course, down. The guard goes and fights the wars. But
but there'll be a lot of people that give up across all faiths, religions. That won't be my family.
No, I don't think you give it up. You didn't take the moniker battle axe for nothing. That's what I like about you. You're tough. And that's what we got to be. We got to be tough. Stacy is a living example of where we got to go, folks. We got to get hard. We got to get tough. You watch the Outlaw and Josie Wells. The Josie Wells character is telling people what to do if they fall under attack in their house. And they had a motley crew of, he was an ex-Confederate. They had Hoosiers and Indians and a little bit of everybody in their family that they had assembled, and he's telling them, you just got to get mad dog mean,
That's right. That's all you can do.
Just down to it, you got to fight. You just got to get mad dog mean, and I think that's what it boils down to, guys. You got to be tough. We can make it. Now, some of us are getting, I got a few years on me, but I'm not giving up. I'm planning to give it every little last ounce I got.
That's right.
And I know I got a few ounces to give, so hey, I can still outwork a lot of 20-something-year-olds the higher times. It's like, really? Maybe I'm gonna let a grandpa show you how to shovel all that crap.
That's right.
And I'm a worm farmer, so I do shovel it, guys. I do it. I've done it just a couple of weeks ago. I unloaded a truckload of it. That's things I do. And so, it's part of it. You know what? It's better for you. I may be a rocket scientist, but I can also shovel crap with the best. I had somebody at the station on one video, and I was talking about, I did a spreadsheet, and I was talking numbers, mathematics, and I guess the people didn't know me too well then. And somebody, and it was about numbers vis-a-vis the bug that was going around, talking about, infectivity and things like that. And somebody made a comment on my channel, says, well, I don't need some worm farmer showing me math. They say, you stick to worm farmer, don't go to math. And I go, really? Math was my collegiate sport. And I'm not
right. Right. Yeah, like I said, farmers get it too. You're just naive. You don't know. Never mind. Farmers they're business owners. You got to
Bingo.
do.
Yeah, that's the
You know,
toughest business to run. You got to have some sharp business acumen to be a farmer.
right.
A farmer's got to be able to fix everything that breaks down. A farmer's got to be pretty darn sharp.
Yep.
This idea of a farmer being slow, that ain't the farmer of today. I'm going to tell you that.
That's right.
Know how to do spreadsheets, computers, internet. They know how to fix things when they break. They know how to run robotic tractors. They understand plants and soil and science.
That's
and
right.
business.
Yeah.
Well, farmers are some of the smartest people you'll find, but they're also usually good, down to earth, humble people. And
Yes.
that's where you got to be. And don't mistake humble for not being smart.
That's right.
When I was
That's
in
right.
college, I used to walk in the class and I would look to see who my two top competitors would be to make the top grade in class, because I could smoke it there for several years. And one of the kids that was my biggest competitor, I had a guy from Iran who was really sharp, and there was an Asian guy, and one of the other guy who was, I think, South Korea, and the other guy who really gave me a run for the money was off the cattle farm. And he talked like this. He had that deep Southern accent, and way further more south than I am. And I'm gonna tell you what, that boy could smoke it. He was a challenge. That guy was brilliant. He knew that calculus. He knew the physics, the circuits, the math. Boy,
Isn't that something, how people hear accents and they think, I get told that all the time because I sound, I'm from Wisconsin, and up here it's predominantly Polish and German, and
yeah.
the kind of the going joke, and this is not racist because I'm Polish and mostly Polish. They'll say you talk like a Polak. It's like, yeah, I'm damn proud of it. I am a Polak.
I'm a hillbilly too. So what?
Yeah. So what? I got
I am a hillbilly.
It is what it is. We don't all
Hillbilly can be a rocket scientist.
That's right.
Else. So that's the bottom line thing, is just don't ever tell your kids they can't be something.
That's right.
Power them. My dad always said can't never could do nothing. and my dad wound up being a union president. He grew up on plowing mules, and and he would go to Washington D.C. a bunch when I was a kid. I wound up going to Washington D.C. as a space advocate. So guys, we're all born with 100 billion brain cells.
That's right. That's right.
We're all capable. So don't ever sell yourself or anybody else short. You never know just who's going to come out to be the brilliant one. But that's the beauty of it. We do have, we need to finish the video here. We're going on for a long time.
Yeah.
But a lot of people are out there talking about population is the problem. Population is not a problem. See, that's Malthusian thinking. Malthusians see us all as mouths. But for every mouth, there's a mind.
That's right. That's right.
And these minds are creative. You can create all kind of stuff. And I've shown you how like this universal habitat, you could house the total population that they're projecting from the UN and feed them where they can be totally independent in an area the size of Texas and New Mexico or half of Alaska.
Yes.
But everybody in the same spot. But don't tell me we got too many people. That is bunk. We may not be living right. We may not be doing things optimally, but this notion we have too many people is total, absolute bunk.
That's right. And that's why I love you, Greg.
I love you because you're tough as nails, you're smart, and you got a lot of vision. We don't agree on everything, and that's fine. But I appreciate you and I respect you 100%. You are real. You were genuine. You tell me what you think, and you feel it with a passion. So I know you're real.
That's yes, and same goes for you, Greg. You put your actions where your mouth is. That's what's important.
Exactly. Everybody, Stacy is real. She's good. She's down to earth, and what you see is what you get. She is 100% real, and that's why I recruited her into the Freedom Restoration Foundation, because I knew she was a good person, and I knew she was a fighter, and that's what we need. We need people with good heart, good sound judgment. She's a person of faith, so I totally trust her.
Yes, yes. Oh, it was a good opportunity to be a part of that, and I'm hoping I could take on more responsibility. And next time we have a meeting, actually be able to speak. That'll be a good thing.
Wow. Yeah, she's lost her voice, or she just got her voice back, ladies and gentlemen. So yeah, she is now the treasurer of the Freedom Restoration Foundation. We don't have any money yet to speak of, but we'll get there. We do have expenses. I'm mostly incurring them, but we'll take care of these things. And I got an action to get a bank account started for you, and
Great.
I have a spreadsheet to send you. I just hadn't emailed it to you yet. But anyway, Stacy, thank you so much. You're a gemstone, and we need more people like you in this world. And more of you can be like her. You just got to be resolute. Maybe you're not physically tough, but be still, be resolute in your soul and your spirit. You can do that. Everybody could do that if you've got the mind about it. I know some people who are very invalid physically, but they got a spirit that's still. They're tough spiritually. So they got that inner strength that will not yield, and I respect that. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you are. You're fortunate. You're blessed with both, and so it's just good to know you. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank y'all for watching this late. We've gone for a while. It's going to take me a little bit to upload this thing, process and upload it. It may be too late by the time I get it all processed. But check out Stacy's channels, Battle Axe and Sustainable Stewards.
Yes.
Subscribe, bang the bell, and click all. And if you're not subscribed to my channel, Green Greg's, do the same thing here.
Yes. Yes.
And if you're interested in space, I got another channel called Galactic Greg's. There's no apostrophe, and it's a plural S. There's a preacher that's also now on Galactic Greg's channel, a newer channel than mine. So, and the apostrophe belongs to a guy with a comic book channel. So anyway, I'm not into comic books, and I may talk faith from time to time, but I'm not a preacher. My oldest brother is, though. Yes, my oldest brother is definitely a preacher. So there we go. Anyway, Stacy, I thank you again.
Thank you
for
Greg.
watching. And you'll be hearing from Stacy on my channel. And if you're watching from her channel, which I hope a good number of you are, I'm sure I'll be back again.
Yes, you will. And I'll post in the notes, everybody, in the descriptive notes, Greg's channel and his business information and all that stuff for you, so you can get over. Yeah.
Check the notes out, and a lot of people don't seem to know how to do this. You just check the pin note as the top comment in the comment field, and if you show notes or the notes that appear right under the video in the channel, there's usually a thing you can click to expand them that shows more. People
That's right.
Where do I find the link? Where do I find the link? I post them in 2 different ways. Stacy, thank you very much. It's been real. It's always on here, and I appreciate everything you do. Thank y'all.
Yeah.
God bless, and Greg out.